Sam Houston, a program in peril? What is going on as we dive behind the scenes of the program tonight? Allegations and thoughts and different reports from multiple sources. That is what we have tonight. Where do you all come out on this? Where do you all come out on this? This is the Bearkat Bites podcast, the Bearkat Bites podcast. You can look at everything right there. The extension of the Bearkat Bites newsletter, the only football media, independent football media, covering Sam Houston year around. Okay? And what I want to talk to you all tonight about are a few things. And I have an announcement. We got a lot of stuff. My goodness, we got a lot of stuff to talk about. What do you all think? Sound off. Sound off. I have the links to the newsletter down below. You can look at our latest article, and that's free. You can also become a subscriber. You can get the t-shirt right there. We got all of that stuff. I've actually got a box right here. Oh, man, let me see if I can grab this. Let me see. I got the freaking dog back here. I've actually got a box here of the holiday item. So if you all are excited about that, we'll talk about that later. But right now, man, the title, goodness, the title as I put this box over here. Sam Houston, is it the Squid Game? Is that what's happening? Now, what is Squid Game about? What was it about? People that was just trying to get ahead. Play a couple games, we'll get ahead. Oh, yeah, it's fine. We'll offer you a chance. We'll come to you and convince you. Upon arriving, not quite what the contestants thought initially. Not quite what those contestants thought. Am I right? Not quite what they thought. Okay. Is it the same thing with Sam Houston right now? Sources, and you can read more about them. Reports are that players have not had financial contributions met. Sources have said players have felt frustration with living arrangements, meals. Sources have told Bearkat Bites here twice a week. Twice a week is what they're getting to grab some food. Twice a week. Twice. Now, the thing is, I remember going to Texas A&M. That's the newest one that we have. I told you I had additional information. That's our additional information right there. And that one really speaks because the entire thing about it is, I remember being at Texas A&M in an apartment there in Bryan, and we happened to live next to some football players for the team. They had so much access to food, they were giving us plates of it at times. You know what I mean? Because you got to have these programs, at least for the most part, I would hope, understand you have to have adequate nutrition for your players or something. They need to be in the weight room. They need to be conditioned. They need to eat right? And a lot of times it doesn't cost a ton to eat right. Trust me now, as somebody who's privately trying to deal with some health and digestion and all this crazy stuff, I can tell you that it's not too much, but it does take a little bit of effort. So to limit the food, if sources are to be believed, that's not a good sign. That's not a good sign. Oh, well, there's also the issues of a feeling of either deal with it or hit the road, Jack. That's what the other sources have talked to Bearkat Bites about. So some of these things, this isn't good. This isn't good. Now, some the skeptic will say, well, there's always two sides. And there are always two sides. And so this is always a place where I would hope that you're getting unbiased analyticalness, all those words and things and opinions and those good things. I would hope that's what you're getting here. So what do you see? What do you see, Bearkat Bites? Is it truly a Squid Game situation? Well, we have to look at the results. What we have now are multiple players over the bye week. Over the bye week, by the way, leaving the program. Again, not good. That tells you that they had a lot of time. Now, we talked about after the loss to UTEP, there were 16 days between the next game. And we talked about, I believe in the post game, we hit a lot of stuff, but I believe one point I made was look for how many guys are going to stay, how many guys are going to leave. There are four known players that have left the program. I believe that there's believed to be a fifth, but four known that I can go and confirm. It's like our sources. Once, I'll take you all behind the scenes a bit. We never will report something here without multiple sources. You understand that? You know what I mean? We're never going to do that. And so when you look at multiple things that are coming out, you look at the 0-7 record that Sam Houston has. It's tough to look at this with a bashful eye, right? Not good. Yeah, you're right. Not good. Not good. There were reports, and you can again see it in the newsletter about coach preparedness. How prepared are the players? Sources didn't want to really lay that at the feet of head coach Phil Longo. Sources talked about a feeling among the roster about, just how are we going to live at the end of these practices that apparently reports are to believe during bye weeks have pads. They're intense during the weeks. On Sundays, they're just going at it. Kind of makes sense how kind of brings into light, the absence of defensive players, of maybe a Jameer Diaz, maybe brings to light the absence of certain players. Why can't they stay on the field? You can't be doing a lot of that. That's an entire thing, right? So that is what do you all think about this? What do you all think about this? How does it make you feel? Are you all ready to burn something down? Are you upset? Are you skeptical? Do you think this is all? What do you think? Because now we've got reports of dissatisfaction. We've got reports of unpreparedness, mostly due to worrying about just getting by out there in Walker County. They're worried about just getting by out in Walker County, out there in Huntsville. And then you got to drive down to these games. That's a whole thing. Well, somebody wants some Longo gone signs. Well, there's not many fans that go to the games. So if you were to do that it would probably be seen by those who are there. I don't know. The next home game is November 15th against Delaware. By the way. Was my gut feeling. Now that is the one that I would say my gut feeling says fact. My gut feeling leans towards fact. My gut feeling leans towards fact. And if you go to my to our newsletter this week, we pull out some of the things that our sources were able to corroborate. We spoke with individuals who had been around and things like that, who are around and in that circle and sphere. They discussed that. They said that yes, there's been a feeling of just lack of communication. There were unmet promises. There are times when just nobody will speak with them. Those at the top are the head coach. So there's that. There is that. There is a feeling that now the thing about it is Sam Houston, how much money is really in the coffers, right? Sound off. What do y'all think about this? That's the thing. There's not a ton of money in the coffers. Fair. Don't make promises that you can't keep. That's just going to make everybody upset. And then you got a reputation, when the response is when a player is, or, thinking about rent and things like that. And then the response, and we've seen the evidence from sources that say, well, you're just kind of on your own there. You're kind of on your own. You got to figure out, you got to take care of business. But the thing about it is, if you led someone to believe that the money is coming, that some sort of package is coming and it's not there, well, how do you have a healthy team? You're already only feeding them a few times a week. There's the mental strain that, mental health is coming into view a lot of times, especially with our athletes and things like that. Kind of makes sense why they're 0-7. Kind of makes sense why they can't get anything going on third down. Kind of makes sense why every game has pretty much been a blowout except Jacksonville State. Kind of makes sense. It's I was talking with a colleague, and they said it's a miracle that they're even playing as hard as they are, and it kind of is kind of a minor miracle, kind of a minor miracle. If this stuff is true, I'm embarrassed to be a Bearkat. Well, as a fan, let me tell you something. We covered Sam Houston. We are an independent media outlet. I undergrad him at Aggie, all right? And I remember the Jim Bum Fisher years, right? And I remember the embarrassment that it made me be an Aggie, especially that 2021, 2022, with that quote #1 class that was getting in trouble every weekend. They're bringing marijuana into the locker rooms and all this stuff. And I did what I'm doing right now. I reported and I saw, and I would ask people, what do you think about this? You have to continue to beat the drum. You have to continue to beat the drum, Well, the stuff I would say reports from sources. Not surprising, still playing hard. Oh, yeah. This comment right here, guys, read that. And as you do, I will say I agree. That was going to be my next point. The ones that are playing well, it's just for obviously, get some good on tape, hit the road, Jack. So, and the Grayson Weir report, the aforementioned report, talked about how there is a feeling that obviously, they're just going to scatter. Everybody else is going to goodbye, at the end of the season. So there's that. So I think that's why that, it also comes into view, Phil Longo, the quarterbacks, it also comes into view why those guys are being treated, so quote delicately. So some of you all who want to know, why aren't they playing this guy or that guy? And well, some of this is starting to come into view. Some of it's starting to become clear, right? Longo thinks he has one good option, and that's his Landon Locke is his ace in the hole. You gotta, and if you're a spades player, I don't know if anybody here plays spades, but you don't play your best spade early in the hand, early in the game. You don't play your best spade early in that game. That's probably what's happening with Landon Locke, right? You got to wait, especially everybody's going to leave. You're going to have new people in, all this type of stuff. All right, I'm reading one comment in here. I think you know who it is. Is it okay if I put that on? Put it in the comments. Is it okay if I put that on? Let me know. Let me know if it's okay if I put that on. When I see certain stuff, I always try to make sure. If it's okay to put that comment on, and I think you know who I'm talking about, I'll put it on. It's totally okay. Let me know. Wish we had Elko. Well, we won't get into that. We're here to talk about Sam Houston. I will say this about Texas A&M. As an Aggie, talk to me in November. Talk to me when you're eating Thanksgiving leftovers the next day. Talk to me then. Talk to me. I'm not, and that's good or bad, either or. Talk to me then. Okay. Why hasn't AD Bobby Williams stepped up? Well, he stepped up with some of that endowment. He started an endowment. There's that. There's a hope that becomes habit forming. I don't know how habit forming it's become. We're so into the season. It's hard to get back to the financials and the contracts and open records requests. It's really hard to get to that stuff. We're analyzing games. We're doing the heart of the fun stuff. We're usually doing the stuff we should be talking about. And I want to get that too. These reports and things. This isn't something we revel in. This isn't something we revel in. Yes, there's a lot of you all here more than usual, which is fine. And again, continue to comment. But we don't take joy in, oh, look at what we did. No one's snooping around looking for stuff. We try to tell the truth here. We try to be as honest as we can, stuff like that. And so, that's what we do. That's what we do. When we come across things, we investigate it. And if it's there, if it's solid, we report it. That's pretty much what we do. All right, I'm going to take the quiet comments as a yes. We have someone here. We'll go ahead and get into it. Let's see. Living situations, recruiting. I mean, this is right here is corroborating everything that our independent sources have said. Wasting it, yeah. So that if this is to be believed, you're seeing more things. It's one thing when you hear one report, even two, but now multiple. This is really leaking out, and this is really the point where you got 5 games left, right? You got 5 games left, and there's been 16 days off. It's been a lot of time to stew and think about those broken promises and thinking about how you're not even eating right, living well. Hold on, family. Let me let this damn dog out. My wife just came in from work. There you go. Shout out to my wifey. She just got a brand new dang job, and so she's a new leader at a new school. So she's trying to put all that stuff together. So that's good. Good for her. Shout out to her. I am one step closer to being like Stedman and Oprah, being a kept man. But so yeah, what were we talking about? Yeah, there's these things that are happening. Let's see. Here we go. You all go ahead and read this. We're gonna read it together. Top JUCO corner out of California, number 6 in the country, but can't help this secondary average more interceptions than passes given up, but can't help this football team. And those are interesting things. The whole problem is that there were now, you all can go back in our newsletter archives. You can see the names that we saw. We all saw these different names that had come into Sam Houston, names that have not seen the field, names that, given how the team is played, particularly on the aforementioned defense right here, has not seen the field. Guys that might contribute. So there's a that implies not truly knowing what you have. And if you look at the defense, we saw that. What did we talk about after that New Mexico State game? What did we talk about? See, now during the offseason, we're talking in terms of theory, if and then, but now every game is a data point. We've got some concrete stuff now. What did we talk about? It really seemed like the defense had gotten, let me see here. Sorry about that. I've got more stuff coming in, The point is that it's not being utilized correctly. When you've seen the New Mexico State game, it appeared that they were outcoached a lot of the time. At times during UTEP, how many non-forward, how many slant routes are there going to be? All of these different type of things. I've also been told by sources, it is not the assistants. It is not the assistant coaches that the roster is taking issue with. So everyone that I talked to, I found that interesting. Everyone that I've talked to did not lay anything at the feet of assistant coaches on the team. From what I gather, these are good guys who started a job later in the year than the normal calendar would normally want you to, and they're doing the best they can. They're doing the best they can. We saw that specifically. What about Keon Williams? Keon Williams, started a couple, 2.5 months, 3 months ago. You know what I'm saying? Coaching the wide receivers. Eric Raisback, the offensive line coach. Lots of different coaches who have just entered, and that's tough. That's tough. It has all contributed to what I'm sure is a very stressful situation for everyone involved. Now, some of you all will say, well, what about the coaches? They're dealing with these things and that. Yeah. Everybody is. So yeah, you're right. So that just contributes to more of it. It's just more heaped on top of it. And you're looking at this 0-7 record, and the picture starts to become clear more so why that is. It is a moment of clarity. It is of why that is. Sound off. What do you all think? I know you all have thoughts. I know you all listening to this and you have thoughts. Okay. What do you all think? Ah, man, you're not being hard enough on such and such, or who this guy, or come on. Lay them on me, guys. Because that's the entire thing that is going on. How do you all feel about that? If you all, what do you all want to see in the program? I do know that we talked a week or so ago how Phil Longo he even admitted he's still adjusting to being not a coordinator. He was a head coach in a different era on a different level of college football. It's an entirely different thing now. And this, this not, oh, that's good or bad. The players are good. The coaches are bad. The players are bad. No. It's changed. It's a lot more equitable. And a savvy person's going to know how to navigate that, like the results haven't shown it, but Scotty Walden has done a fair job of navigating it. Now he's recruiting high school. So someone will talk about him, but you're not going to see those results until next year. Yeah, you recruited high school this year. So next year, the year after, then you'll see those 40 guys play. Hopefully, even the transfer portal, that could go crazy too. Will Longo last the year? Yes, I think so. I think Longo will last the year. Yes. I would see more of a resignation than a firing. You know what I'm saying? I would, if they did something like that. Sam Houston's been like the Pittsburgh Steelers. They don't fire coaches on like that, back and forth. So it remains to be seen. I remember Longo talked about how each one was a 12-round fight. This season is a 12-round fight, 12 games, right? So if you got that, you're 7 rounds in, and you've taken a couple of punches, 2 straight ones at home in front of hundreds of people, no less. You're doing this. So one more punch at La Tech. By the way, La Tech's got a guy, La Tech, interesting enough, their coach, he's coaching for his job. Sonny Cumbie, did you see him this week? Did you see how bad that was? So, yeah. Let's see what we got here. Heard that today. Cignetti's known for watching Kirk Cignetti, Indiana coach, and letting his coordinators do their job. Bird eye view gives him feedback and lets him. Well, yeah. There is that. There is that with Kirk O.C., as I like to call him. Kirk O.C. But that's a guy who came up the old school way. He was a head coach at high school, then at the D2 FCS. I mean, he was at James Madison FCS, now at Indiana. He knows how to. There's certain things you have to do when you're in charge versus when you're just the coordinator. Both are needed. The problem is we live in a country and a culture and society in a Western culture where, in a world where, I'm up here, you're down here, so you are not as legitimate as what I am doing. Each one has to work in concert, and a lot of head coaches, they come to realize that sometimes the hard way, right? We can't realize we can't win every game, just want to be competitive. Competitive, well, they're competitive for a little bit in the game. That's why you got to get there early. Sometimes they're competitive and then it just kind of falls off a hill in the cliff, right? So there's still a few more games. There's still just a few more games. So what do you all want to see? What do you all want to see? I don't see anything as I'm trying to open this box here. I don't see anything that leads to indicate that Longo would be fired. You know, I know it's been stressful. It's been way more stressful than normal. You know, remember, they're getting a lot of these guys in just then. You know, their living situations aren't being set up. There's a lot of frustration about that. You know, I, as somebody, I'll take you all behind the scenes. When I had transitioned jobs, I had lost my apartment and all this stuff. This was years ago. This is like the 2010s. I'm okay now, but perfectly fine now. But I was, you know, it was stressful. I was living in my car. I was doing all this stuff. You know, I was in Atlanta, Georgia, and the times I was able to go into work, that was stressful because it's like, how am I going to get somewhere to eat? What am I going to eat? How am I going to do this? You know, it's basic shit. You know what I mean? So imagine that, and you're trying to play some D1 college football, FBS. Imagine thinking about that. And by the way, you got to go hit Arch Manning on Saturday. A guy who has nothing to freaking worry about. I mean, I hear at the University of Texas, they read Arch Manning a bedtime story after every game. They're going to read him 3 Little Pigs after this, right? You need an experienced high school coach. Well, and that's sort of the problem. You're kind of touching this comment as you all read it is kind of touching on what I want to kind of get to in the offseason a little bit. Where is the high school talent? Because you got Scotty Walden out there out recruiting you. You got Scotty Walden out recruiting you. You know, he's bringing in all these guys. He's going to the high school association meetings. Where is Phil Longo? Where is Phil Longo? Now, he has a mulligan for last offseason. He was trying to get everything settled in. The family's moved in now. People are more settled. You got to be in San Antonio or Dallas or wherever they have that thing. And you got to be talking. You got to be talking to these high schoolers, these high school coaches, because they're going to send you guys. They're going to send you three-star guy that leaves and can be an NFLer. They're going to send you a Tristan or Zion McCullum, you know? They're gonna send you some of these guys, right? I agree with that wholeheartedly. We're gonna touch on it more in the offseason. That's why y'all gotta subscribe. All of this stuff, everything, a lot of this we discuss and talk about in the offseason, right? Now, this one was kind of light because we didn't know what to expect. You know, the toughest offseason to always cover is the one with a new head coach because you have no clue what's gonna happen. You're just guessing. You're just guessing. You really have nothing. But then after that, you have something. We got a lot to get into this offseason, right? We got a lot to get to. You know, personally, from a coverage standpoint, I'm hoping that they do hold on to Longo. From that sole standpoint alone. That sole standpoint, right? Not as a fan or, you know, we're reporters here, all that stuff. But what else do you guys think? What else do you guys think about this, right? What else do you guys think? By the way, we have got the Sam Houston slippers. They are here. They are here. Subscribe. We've only got 20 of these. Only 20. Well, 19, because I'm going to keep one. I'm keeping one. I think we got 20. I think so. So if you want some of the slippers and you want this, we are going to have that for you. But you got to subscribe, the yearly subscription, $50. I'll put this shirt. I'll put these. Look at what they come in. Look at this. My goodness. They're going to come in these nice packages. Oh, my word. Get these for the kiddos. They are there for the kiddos, guys. And a few bigger sizes too. So we got some limited supply here for you guys. As we talk about, let's keep going here. He'll probably be given another year or two to save money. Yeah, man. Yeah. And the excuse that he needs a full off season. Well, you know, it is an excuse, but it's a good one. It's a good one. I was talking with some colleagues, and a lot of them don't like when I compare Phil Longo to Steve Sarkisian. They're like, oh, what? Well, on its surface. But let's go back to 2021 when Sarkisian started. Remember, Steve Sarkisian started around the time Longo did in January after they had unceremoniously canned Tom Herman, and that first team was bad. That first team was bad. 5-7, lost to Kansas again. And some of the players were recorded. Now they had a player cultural problem because they had passionate coaches there, and the players were recording him and laughing. Remember that? The defensive line coach there. I would not want to mess with that guy. Name starts with a B, I think. He was from LSU. He was Texas's defensive line coach there in the early 2020s. He might still be there. I can't think of his name, but I would not want to be a player getting caught recording him, making fun of him like they were. Put it to you that way. Yes, sir. It would be one of them. I'll be real. I can be real here, right? Okay. Yeah. That's a valid excuse. And so, I say that to say all of that happened as a result of what happened because Steve Sarkisian did not have full ample time to kind of get his own guys in there. So what happened later? He got his own guys, and then what happened? Boom, Texas. Now, I mean, they're a lot better than 5-7. I don't know what they're going to do this year, but the highs have been pretty high. They got to the playoff. They got to I believe, the Final Four, right? So if you are a glass half full Sam Houston fan, you can look at it like that. Give them an off season. Problem is, there's not many high schoolers in the recruiting pipeline right now. I think there's like several. 5. I think there's like 5 maybe. I need to write them all down. I've got colleagues and people. Sports is Sam Houston Sports Talk, the legendary broadcast there. They keep copious notes on the recruits. I'm not a big recruiter guy. I'm more general. It's like bring in high schoolers and develop, because that has worked and it can work. It's Conference USA. Kennesaw State is freaking at the top of Conference USA. Are you telling me that Sam Houston can't be better than Kennesaw State? Come on. In talent-rich Texas, where we've got freaking Dave Campbell's football, in an era where we've got Dave Campbell's football right here, the Bible of Texas football, and you're trying to tell me that Sam Houston can't find him? Well, we got somebody here, no confidence in Longo. Well, by the way, what I said, that wasn't an endorsement for or against Longo, by the way. It is an endorsement of what Sam Houston has done and should be doing. The problem is now you live in a world where North Texas is out recruiting you. I mean, Lamar, I'm sorry, let's go. Well, yeah, North Texas. There was a time when North Texas wasn't that great. Eric Morris is doing his thing there. UTEP is out recruiting you all the way out. Them kids want to drive a day out to West Texas rather than drive up the road to Huntsville there in Houston. And I know a couple of them. We interviewed them. My wife helped me interview a couple of them. We posted them on our Twitter, and we talked to them. One guy, KD Hutchinson, he's from Houston. I think he went to Marshall or one of those places. He's from the Houston area. He'd rather go out there than up north to Huntsville. That is an imbalance. And when you listen to what we've been talking about so far, you see why it's an imbalance. Why it is become clear. It's an endorsement of when you look at the program and see what it should be, because you're not in the SEC. You're not even in really the Sun Belt where, they've got some bigger attractions and money and stuff. Some of those teams do. Coastal, I believe Louisiana Lafayette, I think low-key's pretty good. Troy, I believe. You could go there, become the base under ULM. But it's a lot going on. It's a lot going on with the program. While I have you all here as well, in addition to these, again, I want to make an announcement. So you all, when you contribute and you become a yearly subscriber at the $50 level and get this stuff, what that also does for us is allow us to go and cover the team. Allows for travel, allows for hotel if we need it, safe places to stay. You don't want me staying at the Roach Motel, get kidnapped by the crackhead down the alley. Now ain't nobody here to cover the game. You don't want that. You want me in a safe spot. And you all have decided that. You all have agreed. You all have contributed so much so that we are going to go and see and cover. We'll cover first and report on Sam Houston at Oregon State. The first ever meeting between the two teams, and we are going to be there. Bearkat Bites. We're going to be doing our signature coverage of around the stadium, at the stadium, the sights and sounds, the type of things that have gotten us in places like Bro Bible and other places. You all did that, by the way. You all are doing this. This is nothing without you all, okay? What do y'all think about that? Give yourselves a freaking round of applause, okay? All I wanted to do when I began this was tell things the right way. Tell it the right way, no matter good or bad. Tell it the right way. Make sure that the full story was told. That was it. And you all have helped do that. You all did that. You all are sending us out to Portland, Oregon, where we will then rent a car, drive to Corvallis, Oregon. It's an hour and a half southwest of Portland. We will be there. I was low-key hoping both teams had a zero in the win column, but it will be interesting because both teams, I think if both teams will enter the game looking for their first win over an FBS opponent. So how about that? Let's see what we got here. So thank you all for that. Give yourselves a round of applause, man. I wish I had little sound effects. We'll get those one day. The more you all contribute. And again, you want the shirt, the Big Sam shirt. Make sure if you want these, you want some of these slippers. Man, Santa Claus. And it's based on the Santa Claus. Remember how Tim Allen, the Santa Claus? Santa Claus. So what do y'all think about that? That's why it's spelled Claus the way it is. What do y'all think about that? Would you all get some of those? Do those look comfy to you? Those of you all who are allowed to be around women, would they find those comfy? Those of you all who are around women, would they think about a pair of these? Huntsville is such an easy sell to all the slept on Houston kids. Yeah. What Kennesaw State is doing is essentially what Sam Houston is doing. Get some of those guys from that Atlanta area to come up out into the extreme exurbs, and play some winning football. That's the game plan. Yeah, the upgraded stadium, I don't know. New Mexico State's got some new locker rooms and everything. Now, I don't know. I have not been around the program long enough to know when Sam Houston got new locker rooms, but it could be time for some of that. It could be time for some of that. But, now you got to focus more on paying the players. It's just this great balancing act all the time. It's this continued freaking great balancing act that Sam Houston is forced to engage in right now. That's the entire issue with the team. And it's made worse. It is exacerbated, meaning it is made worse by the fact that, there's lack of communication. There's not a lot of trust there. There is this, my way or the highway. You're already playing from behind the 8 ball. You've got to figure out a way to work collaboratively. You got to figure out a way to work collaboratively if you're going to survive even the season. You know what I mean? If you're going to survive even the season. So it's interesting. It's interesting times right now. It's interesting times. A lot of people around the program, they're questioning, should they go back down to FCS? That was kind of an off-season topic. Let's preview that a little. We'll preview that some down the line. But I will say this about that. Idaho did it. the state school, an entire state school did it. They looked around and said, nah, this isn't for us. They dropped back. I don't know how successful they've been since, but you know, they tried it and they were like, yeah, we're okay here. We're going back down. A couple other schools have dropped in the lower rankings from like D2 to D3 or FCS to D3, stuff like that. So it's getting real. It's getting real out here, you know, and then they're heading towards these contracts in 2031, you know, the TV contracts. What's that going to look like after this, you know? Do I have any college eligibility? Oh, no. I never played the game, but I loved the game. And I was always blessed to be around the players, you know. There were always those, you know, quote, pick on the kid with the glass. You know, there was some of that at the school at Westfield I went to, but a lot more were just cool. I ended up working with one guy, my first ever job. He went on to play for University of Houston. I think just a few years ago, he retired from the Canadian Football League. And he went to Blaine College before UH. So he was a great guy. He and my sister, to this day, they're still the best of friends. So I've always been around them. I talked to y'all earlier in the broadcast about how I had some football players who smiled upon a broke kid at A&M and giving us some plates, me and the homies. We appreciated that. So I was never a player, but I enjoyed the game. And then I did the marching band, which I did not like high school football from the marching band perspective because it was very demanding. Very demanding. Oh, goodness. Very demanding. But when I come back as a fan and things are cool, it's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun watching the games. So I love all levels at my heart of football, right? I love college football the best. That's the one that was my first ever reporter job. My job was to report about Texas A&M for KZNE The Zone, 11:50 a.m. if you're in College Station. Louis Bolina. Ask him who Lane Fobbs is. He'll know. Call and ask him. Tell him Lane Fobbs said hello. He'll know. Chip Howard. I was working with them, learning how to be a reporter, put all that out. Got away from it after a few years. I'm just coming back into it. It's about couple of years now. I'm back into it, and it's a lot of fun. Independently, we didn't have this when I started. I know some of y'all call me an unk. Yeah, back when we had iPhone 1, we didn't have all of this, and it was crazy. We had Skype. I could talk to you voice, but some smooth camera like this on a laptop, nah, we ain't had that yet. And if you did, you had to have some, you know, had to have a little coin. Now it's just a few $100. It's changed, and a lot for the better, because if you're somebody that tries to do it right, you're going to be fine. So no, I don't have any eligibility left. I've got many more years reporting and giving you all this stuff. I got to meet Kirk Bowles. Some of y'all know who he is. He's a legendary Texas writer around college football and University of Texas. I got to run into him. All the stuff he's seen. I got to meet Dave Campbell, the actual Dave Campbell that did the magazine before he passed. I got to meet Dave Campbell. And you know something? He didn't start that magazine until he was 40. He didn't start that until he was 40. So people who are always, you know, if you're thinking, what do you want to do later in life? It's too late. Nah, man, it's not. It's not. All right, I'm off my inspirational soapbox. You all sent me down this entire thing. I'm like Mike Leach. I'll just start talking about anything. God rest the man's soul. I'll just start going off about anything. But yeah. Looks like we don't have any more comments. So we're gonna wrap this up. We'll see you guys. Let's see. That's Friday. Maybe next week we will do the show on Friday. Join us next week. We will have a pregame show for the La Tech game, and then we'll do a post game. You know, with Sam Houston playing these midweek games, it's so weird, right? So we've been moving the show. This is normally our time every Thursday night at 7:15 p.m. But we'll move it to Friday. We'll have a pre and post game show, and we'll give you all some more stuff to talk about after the media availability next week. So we'll try to ask about some of this, see how it goes, see how we post some of those. But you all be safe, be blessed. We'll see you all. Take care. All college football is good college football.